Hello, good morning. Yes, I'm not alone here. I'm with who are you? Why are you here? What's going on?
Why did you kidnap me?
You didn't put much of a fight, I have to say. In fairness.
Said, hey, I'm here, let's get donuts and have some coffee. And I was like, yeah, that's all it takes.
Do you believe this?
And I'm Riley, by the way.
Oh my goodness. Yes, this is Riley. This is our second guest for La Yaki Coffee Chats. So welcome, Riley, to La Yaki Coffee Chats. I can't even say the name.
It's because of me. It's because I'm here. I have that effect on people. You instantly stop forgetting words. I will do the same. Don't worry.
Well, why don't you say the name of this? What is it called?
What is it called?
It's called La Yaki.
La Yaki Coffee Chats. La Yaki Coffee Chats. You know, I never had to say that like out loud before. Like now. Thank you.
So now you said it.
And
thank you.
Thank you. No, because you know when you're like reading a lot and stuff and like you just kind of like skim over the words like, yeah, that makes sense. I know what that word means. But I've never had to like actually say it. That was a lot of my childhood, so I'm used to that. Because I was very much a bookworm, but I did not talk to people.
Oh.
So.
Do you know what La Yaki is?
No, actually.
Are you serious? Oh, okay, we're doing this. We're going to do this. We're going to break this down. La Yaki. I'm so glad you bring this up because I don't even know if people understand what that is. Well, here we go.
I'm people.
You're people. You're people, dude. So La Yaki is in Spanish, or I guess when I would, I'd go visit my cousins in Mexico, they'd say like, oh, La Yaki. I don't know, for some reason we always would say la, like the. It's like saying the in front of a person's name, like the Riley.
Okay.
I don't know why. I guess that's the best translation. But Yaki, so my name's Jackie, but they'd call me Yaki, like Yaki. So Y-A-K-I, Yaki. And so, when MySpace came out, you remember MySpace? I don't know if you remember MySpace or
I know MySpace from other people.
But you've never had it?
I never had it.
Okay, yeah, that's the age gap right there. But that's okay. That's okay. That's cool.
That's also my parents not letting me on the internet at a young age.
I can respect that.
Right? Wild West out there.
So I remember being like, oh, what's going to be my MySpace name? So I was like, I'm going to put La Yaki. And so I just carried over, and now that's like my sort of alter ego, La Yaki, and that's like my Instagram. But on Donde Son Tortas, I like say, La Yaki. So La Yaki Coffee Chats. And my dog is looking at us like, what is going on over there? Charlie. Yeah, it's going to be super intimate. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so Riley, when I first met you, it was so funny. I asked you to FaceTime. Remember this? Because it was during the pandemic. And I was like, I want to meet you. I'm like, I want to FaceTime because, like, we're going to be working closely together. Like, why not? Like, when I asked you to do that, were you like, what is up with her? Like, were you nervous?
Okay. Let's see, how did I feel? The pandemic really just changed because I'm pretty sure, like, I was very nervous to, like, meet you because I was like, oh my gosh, what are you going to think of my work that I've been doing and stuff? Because I was like, I've never done this before kind of thing, and here's this extra.
But you were doing amazing.
Through. Thank you.
He was very talented. Okay.
I've learned.
Yeah, a few things.
But yeah, I was just like, okay, if this is how they do it in the marketing world, like, I'm down for it.
I'm down for it.
I was like, it's going to be intimidating and scary no matter what. If you're going to jump head first, like, I'm going to jump in head first, too.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to trust you now.
Aww. So. I love that. I think that meant a lot to me that you were, like, willing to talk to me on FaceTime. And because I was like, I guess I wanted to break that. I wanted to be like, hey, we're human. We're going to be working closer together, and this is what it takes,
I haven't seen many people either.
Yeah. So
like,
there was also
that was also nice. To,
so that was nice, right?
Like, a new face, like, oh. And then, like, I remember, like, meeting you in person for, like, the first time.
Okay. Oh, how was it?
And you were much shorter than I thought.
And I'm actually pretty tall.
You are. And for some reason, I thought you would be a bit taller just from, like, the amount of, like, energy you have. Oh. And I was just like, okay.
Oh, I've never heard that before. The reason why Riley's here today is we just talked to Luis about happiness, and in chatting with Riley, we actually had coffee off screen, and we talked about a lot of things, and I didn't know that Riley was very much a mental health aficionado.
Not an expert.
Not an expert. Nobody's here as an expert, but definitely you've done your research and you're just really inquisitive about it and you've learned a lot. And we ended up talking for a long time. And so I was like, okay, you need to get on. You gotta get on this coffee chat, and we gotta talk because I think that's what I want to do. I want to bring people different experiences and different perspectives, you know. And so the thing that we're gonna talk about today is I noticed that a lot of the things that I'm learning in my own healing journey and what I'm doing and sharing with everyone is I keep coming back to this idea of you really just got to trust yourself, like, period. And this will bleed into every part of your life. And I'm just like, but why is it so hard? Like, there's this, it's reoccurring for a reason. Like, why do I keep learning this? And why is it so hard? So I guess that's where we want to that's where we want to start. And I guess let's see where this takes us. So
yeah.
You want to take it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you kind of sparked that idea of like, why did I get when did I start getting interested in this stuff, right? And I can just remember as like a young kid being like going into kindergarten like for the like first time and everything, and just being so like bewildered how people acted. Okay. That I had to know why.
I love it. Your curiosity. Yeah.
I'm a very, very curious kid. And I wanted to know, like, especially, like, the social aspect. Like, why do we do this? Like, why are we, like, talking the way we do? Why do people talk in circles? Like, why do these things happen?
Love it.
And so it was just, like, I just kept
Wait, you're in kindergarten?
I'm in kindergarten. I'm thinking, like, these things. You don't...
I love it. I love it!
When I said I read a lot.
Yeah, like, I mean, we should all read.
Yes, I should read more. That dropped off at some point.
I mean, it happens, but okay. So then you're in kindergarten and you're observing all this, and as you're observing it, what are you thinking? Like, are you thinking like that does make sense, or did you challenge like why it was why people were acting the way they were?
I didn't challenge. I just observed.
Okay.
I just made notes and like observed people and like noticed little subtle things. You know, kids notice that. They will either like like take it in and intellectualize it like with words and figure that out, or they'll just take it emotionally and you won't even realize it.
Sounds familiar. Wait, what did you do? Which kid were you?
I was intellectualizing it. So I'll take feelings and I'll just like be like, oh, they feel this because of that, because of this thing, because they're affected by this. And sometimes it's not all that, but you know, something like that where, I don't know why this one. So
what?
Because like I had one of my best friends in kindergarten was Black.
Okay.
When she would disappear from school for like a few days at a time, it would be concerning. And stuff. And it would be her family's poor. She had to like stay home and do stuff. And then one day she just stopped coming to school. And I was just like, what is happening? And I remember hearing that like just her dad wouldn't stop smoking cigarettes in the school. And I was thinking, okay, but what if instead someone in the school administration could be racist and subtly like having stricter like guidance on him and their family because they're Black and blah. That's how deep I was going with this. Was like that was what I was thinking about. Is like these subtle little things of people don't realize why they're doing what they're doing. And it took me like many years to figure out why I was doing that too. Was that I didn't understand those cues and I didn't understand those social aspects of interacting. And I was trying to figure out how can I like interact with these people? How can I make friends and like know people? And me, I was just observing. I just observed.
I mean, it's kind of like that idea of like you have to listen to understand, you know, like and be silent when you have to learn. And so that's cool that at such a young age you were like, I need to like understand and observe and then, you know.
I very much was like, I want to learn everything. And I still do, like multicultural, like across the board.
Yes.
Of course. Like the world is way too interesting to leave it.
I love that. To look at it in that way because, you know, people can easily switch that around.
Yeah.
You know, and so by this, you know, you're observing then how did you start to understand you though, right? Like you're observing the people around you. Then how did it come back to you where you're like, what about me? What are you observing about yourself, and how do you feel like that leads to this idea of ultimately trusting yourself? Because I don't think I really thought about this as a younger person, and now I'm like, this is like a fundamental thing that we should all like learn at a young age to start to build that.
So that trust in like, that's hard itself because again, as a kid, you are observing, you are listening, even if you don't realize it, you're like taking in these messages and either accepting them or rejecting them. Sometimes they take time, especially because when you're in society and things, you're constantly being exposed to these messages all the time.
I mean, case in point, I thought being gay was like this terrible thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't trust those feelings where I was like, because I look back and I'm like, dude, I knew when I was like 8. You know what I mean? Like, I knew.
Yeah.
But I knew that, like you said, like, I was also looking at what people were saying and doing, and I was like, oh, well, it clearly it's not a good thing, so I'm just not gonna.
Right. And so, like, internalizing, like, that internal,
yes.
like, homophobia.
Yeah. Fun stuff. Internalized homophobia. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, I think from my queer lens, it's like, it makes sense that I never really thought about how important it was to trust yourself because everything in the world was telling me that I shouldn't trust those natural feelings that I had, you know?
Yeah.
So that's interesting, like, to connect those dots.
And the learning to trust yourself is a process.
Oh. Did you hear that? Say that again. That's the part.
Learning to trust yourself.
You tell them, Riley.
Is a process. It's going to affect, like you said, every part of your life. And it can affect how you feel about yourself, what risks you're willing to take, and what you're willing to go for. And it can alter life paths. Like some risks not worth taking. You can trust yourself to not take a risk even when everybody's telling you to. Because you're like, I have no good feelings about it. That's not what I want.
Okay, let's take a moment right there.
What is it that you want?
Well, okay. Yeah, what is it that you want? But what is... I always like to go the step before that. Because it's like... You also have to be aware enough and trusting of yourself to even question that. Because some people are like, oh, this doesn't feel right, but I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, how do you get to the point? Because that's very, like, intellectual and smart of you to be like, this doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do that. But there's people who can't even, like, they just self-sabotage. Like, they feel it's not right, and yet they choose to just disregard those feelings.
Oh, I've done that too.
So what is that about? What is that about?
I mean,
What is that about?
I don't know. I mean, at some point, you just have to have... For me, I had to have more experiences to learn what I did and didn't like, because I had a lot of negative experiences.
Yes.
So I knew what I didn't like. I didn't like being yelled at. I didn't like people calling me names. Like, I was like, okay, very basic stuff.
Yeah.
So I could start there with my foundation of, I don't like when people are mean to each other. Always, like, I looked back and went, that's always been true for me, so I can hold on to that as, like, a core belief. And, I mean, it's kind of influenced, like, I want to be an advocate for things, and I want to be, stand up for others, mostly. Because standing up for yourself is a lot harder for some reason. Because, again,
what is that about? That's what I'm saying. What is that about?
We think too much. We have too many thoughts. We overthink, like, even when you don't overthink things, that's when you get to the point of, like, that trust of, like, I think a bit more. But overthinking is, like, not always a lack of trust, but sometimes that, like, again, what are people going to think? Am I going to lose people? Is something going to happen? Is something bad going to happen? You know?
And I love that you're talking about, like, that you've had these experiences, because we're all going to have positive, negative ones, and the whole point is to learn from those experiences and be like, okay, what does this mean for me now, you know? Instead of dwelling on, it's like, what can I do about this now?
Because we have those core beliefs, too, of, like, things that no matter what around us is going to happen, those will never shake. And, like, some of us, that's like, I want to just, everyone, like, be nice to each other. And that's, like, you know, everyone's like, that's naive. And it's like, that's a core belief.
That's a core. You have to hold yourself. You have to be grounded on something.
Yes.
You can't be wishy-washy. It's like, no, that this is like a value you have to intrinsically, like,
And it's
embody it, be it. You have to, something has to hold you down, you know?
Something,
accountability and all that stuff. I just remember what I was going to say.
Yes.
Because of what you just said. Because it talks about that. I think the more that we can make decisions based on what we feel is right, what you were saying about like, oh, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel, like, not just, I'm not just saying like what you feel, right? What you think and what you've come to assess and you feel like this is the right thing for you at the time. The more and more that you can do that for yourself, because it's scary. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of the times we're like, well, what do you think? You know, because I'm scared, you know, your fear. But I think the more that we can figure out how to build that trust, just like how we build trust with each other, with others, it's like, how do we build that trust with ourselves? And then you make decisions, and yeah, sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Like, oh, yeah. I'm a perfectionist, so that's why I think that's another reason why I think trust is hard with myself. But it's like, I'm also realizing, like, I just have to go for it. I just have to make these decisions. And I have to hold myself accountable and be like, well, I will learn, and I'll do it, because I need to get back to I think everyone's voice is important. And in order to build your voice and what you think, you have to make those decisions for yourself. And
be okay with that failure or possibility.
Say that one more time.
And be okay with that failure or possibility.
And why is that, Riley?
Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And if that's scary, that's for you to talk to a therapist about.
Yes, we do believe in therapy.
Yes. Because sometimes you talk through those fears and you realize it's not as bad as I thought. Mm-hmm. And because I've been through so much therapy, I have like a little internal therapist where I can go, wait a minute, let's pause and see the situation as it is, rather than how we feel it is. Because it can feel like a catastrophe. Mm-hmm. Like, Simba's made a mess all over and dug through. Simba's my dog. Yeah. My big fluffy Malamute. He'll dig through the trash. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, my roommates, like they saw this and they, you know, I have to clean this up now and hurry home. And I'm like, I can't get home any faster than I can right now. This situation is what it is. My roommates are not upset with me. If they were, they would tell me. And I have to trust that they will.
This is remarkable, by the way. I'm not going to tell you how old he is. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not. You don't need to know. But I think it's really remarkable to hear you. Because that is, like, I love that. I love that for you, as they say. Like, I love that. That's such a... I'm not going to say the word mature, because that's a given. But I love the way you're thinking, because that's really going to set you up for... it's just a healthy, emotionally healthy way to live, to see the world, to see life. Because from my perspective, I feel like in my 20s, that's the only hint I'm going to give you. In my 20s, I feel like in my 20s, I just, honestly, like, I did a lot of distracting. Where I was feeling uncomfortable, or I didn't, you know, and I just would distract myself, and I wouldn't really try to break it down the way that you're doing. Because I didn't go to therapy, you know. I attempted a couple times, but it's, you know, I think that is the power, I think, of, you know, I know it's not accessible to everyone, mental health services, right? But I do think it's becoming more accessible now. I do believe that. But that's where therapy comes in, because, you know, your friends are great. Friends and community are great. Family can be great. But ultimately, that sort of, those learnings, like, are so instrumental, because they're so fundamental. Like, what you just broke down is something that I hope that every human being, like, is able to practice and do and
get to that point. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it's also difficult, like, to put your trust in other people, especially people, like, you may not know so well, like new coworkers and things. I had something I was going to bring up now,
I know. Okay.
There's too many good points.
Oh, there's too many. It's okay. We got a minute. We got a minute or two.
I feel like in some ways I still do. It feels almost natural to want to do, like, the escapism and everything because of the position of being in your 20s. Early or late,
yes,
you feel not as powerful as you think you should be. And it's a total fib. Like,
what is it? Age is a construct?
it kind of can be. It really is, because I've met people, like, you know, everyone's on different journeys and everything, and it's important to respect that.
Yeah.
But also challenge it at the same time. We're like, hey, I understand, like, you feel differently about this, but you need to respect that in my line of work, like, this is how it is now.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, no, I'm not going to put in the extra work, for example. Like, there is that, you know, in the workplace, especially that divide of stay overtime.
Generationally, too, yes.
Yeah.
That divide, yeah.
But, like, I'll distract myself with work instead of, like, other things.
I did that, by the way. Don't do it.
Yeah,
well,
no,
I
don't.
became a workaholic, so.
It's not,
but
you know.
it's easy to do. It's an easy thing to do.
And it's praised. The hustle culture is praised.
It is praised.
Yes.
And that, I've mentioned it, I think Luis and I touched on it slightly, but this idea of, like, I really do admire the Gen Z folks, because I think change cannot happen unless you, what is it? Luis like, resistance is happiness, you know?
Yes.
You have to, and part of that goes back to what we are talking about, which is, like, you have to find your voice and you have to use it, and change will happen because of that. And, you know, people are resistant to change because it's, you know, yes, it can be scary, but it's also like, don't you want to make things better? And especially with the workplace, it's like, don't you want people to live, like, healthy, balanced lives so that when they do come to work, it's like...
Yeah, it's like, what is your pushback with that?
Yeah.
And it's like, internally, what are you actually fighting here?
Yeah.
Is it because you feel cheated, or because you didn't have that sort of respect for yourself and now you feel...
Right. And that's the thing, is there's definitely that generational issue where there's folks who are like, they were like, well, you have to pay the dues the way I did, you know, or you have to do this. And I think it's more about, like, well, it's about not being extreme as far as, like, yeah, sure, there's things that maybe in my generation that I learned that I think would be valuable to you. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that I have to bring all the other baggage to you. Like, why don't I give you the good stuff? The stuff that actually served me well and that didn't make me fall into depression. Like, let me give you some of that stuff. Right. You know? So that you can feel empowered and you can do and hey, and maybe one day you'll be in my position. You'll do the same for the people that are younger than you. You know, I mean, it's about, that's what it should be about. And that's why, you know, and I have to give credit to my wife, who and then, I mean, that's why it's always so good to be with a partner who wants to make you a better person, who gives you perspective and things. It's like, also she helps me really understand and see that too, because I grew up in a home that was very conservative, but I was the most liberal person in my home, so yay me. But she still also teaches me, and I'm like, yeah, because it's like, it's about, it's like, why would we not want things better for people? Like, why would we, like, that's why we're in the mess that we're in, was because we didn't get to have that support.
Right.
Generations before us didn't get to do, you know, may not have done that for us. That's an understatement. No, I'm not saying that there were many great instrumental people. What I'm saying is, like, with certain things, you know, how can you make things better for the next folks to come, right?
Yeah. And there was something, I forget his name. He's a wonderful bassist, but
from a band, or
I think he played in a band, but he gave this talk, not a speech, a talk.
Okay, like a TED Talk?
No. Like at a college for graduating class.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't do speeches; he just talks.
Oh, gotcha. I know what you mean now.
It was, yeah.
It was a talk. Okay.
It was a talk.
All right,
he was playing bass at the same time he was talking.
How cool!
And
love it.
He saying, like, his mom was saying, like, the world has, you know, plenty of doctors and like crossing guards and, like, all these people. What the world needs is more good people. And that's pretty much, you know,
that's pretty solid. That's very solid.
Because how can we support each other without getting into
fundamentally though being good people?
Fundamentally being good enough people. You don't have to be a good person to be good enough too. Like, some people internally, they may not want to see, like, everyone succeed. They may just want to focus on themselves. Mm-hmm. And whether that's because of a mental, like, mental health or because of like other reasons, like they can still do good. They can still go out and provide some service that ultimately will benefit people. Because
Absolutely.
good enough.
Good enough. And it's so funny you mentioned that. I had another interview yesterday where we were talking about like dating and stuff, and I think that also applies to dating because it's like it's all a domino effect, really. But I never realized in my 20s how important it was to date someone who was just a good person. Who was just a genuine human being where you're like, hey, you know what? Even if it doesn't work out, like, or if we're just friends, like, you're a cool person. Like, you're a good person.
Yeah.
I didn't think about, like, yeah, if you're going to share your life with someone or want to share a part of your life, like, yeah, you hope that, because then it's a domino effect. Then, because Anna makes me a better person, like, literally. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I didn't realize this didn't look out for.
Because like, especially because we're in high school and stuff, you're forced to be with the same people.
Yes.
It's kind of harder to be like, you see them every single day. It's like they're just a person now.
Yeah.
And you go out into the world, you meet people for the first time. Some people have like a mask and stuff. So it's like, how do you determine who is a good person?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah. How did you do that?
How did you
determine?
Well, okay, I can only, so several things. Oh my gosh, it's a complex question. I love it though. Oof, oof. Take a bite, by the way. I was gonna tell you, like, take a bite, dude.
I don't eat too much in the morning. This coffee is like really
Is it good?
Though.
I don't think necessarily that. I mean, I did meet some bad ones, but I also met some people who were, not that they weren't good, but I don't think they knew how to exercise values, especially, I don't know, because. Yeah, and I think that goes back to, I know this is like full circle, but I really feel like Anna, when I met her, it's like she knew who she was, and she had that trust in herself. And I think part of, I've never said that, I'm going to try to think this through here, but I think part of that is, I think when you're, in my perspective, and I can only speak from my experiences, like, I feel like part about being good is having a surrendering of yourself, like of loving yourself as you are, which then you're like, there's nothing holding me back. Like, why would I not want to be good? Like, so, cause like when I met Anna, I was like, what she exuded was like, I just could feel that she knew who she was. She knew, oh gosh, it was an energy. It was just like, it's so hard to explain. It's just like this incredible energy of just like, this person knows who she is. She seems like I can trust her. Like, just her kindness and her. She had friends that were there. We both connected over art too. Like, also there's also this connectivity of like, we just bonded over the same things and we valued the same things. You could say that. I mean, I think queer people are amazing. So there is a level of like, the queer experience just lends itself to just people who are I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. I mean, at least with trans people, I'm like, you at least get it. Even if I don't like you as a person, like your personality and mine don't match.
Sure.
Like, I can tell you, like, you have good intentions and things. And, like, even if, like, we're total opposites in every way kind of thing.
Do you feel that part of that is this idea of, like, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, but let's just go with it. But this idea of, like, we are, just by us being who we are defying, I don't know if that's the right word. We are defying what the world thinks is, good or bad.
Yeah.
Right? So we are inherently who we are, just as we, like, I'm not saying here, like, oh, I'm a rock star or I'm like a foodie. I'm like, no, this is like inherently part of how we were born and how we connect with people. And like, do you get what I'm saying? I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm like, I feel like there's this.
Some of our attributes make people think we're bad people when they're really just neutral attributes, where they're not good or bad.
Yes.
They're just
Yes.
people.
And by society thinking this way about who we are.
Attaching these certain other ideas to these things. Like, it's like, you're this and that because of this. And it's like, no.
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 It's like, we are the same. Actually. Just like however you identify. Mm-hmm. And it's not the same, but you identify a certain, we actually we're all the same. But because society has, has painted this lovely picture mm-hmm. and boxed people and whatnot, I do think that makes folks like, there's this appreciation, I guess, appreciation and like compassion. I guess I'm going to say the word compassion. Yeah, I'm going to use the word compassion.
It sounds pretty close.
Yeah, like I feel like, and it's so funny because I've never really thought about this, so I'm really trying to like form an answer here. But
yeah,
I think ultimately what it came down to is, you asked me how to identify her as a good person, and I would just say that Anna is loving. Anna is selfless, but she's also selfish. And I know that sounds kind of weird, right? But I'm saying what I mean by that is like she cares about other people, but she really cares about herself.
Yeah.
And I think when you can care about yourself and care about others, like that it's not interchangeable. Oh, it is, I guess, would it be interchangeable? That it is?
They're entwined.
They're entwined, yes.
Like you have to take care of yourself if you want to take care of other people, which they say all the time.
Yeah. So I think there was a level of like respect that I had for her.
Yeah.
And I saw something in her that I know I was struggling with myself. And I don't know, I've never really thought about it, but I guess I feel like that, for me, does that even make sense that would exude the feeling like somebody is a good person because they're intertwined that.
Yeah, like there is that, like, you've learned, you've had experiences, you've been through things, and yet here you are, you've come out with, like, these ideas of who you are, and I want that for myself, too, and, like, learn what you've learned so I can get there, too.
Yeah.
Which can also make someone a good person. It's like they have the qualities that maybe either you want or that you admire.
Yes.
And then you said, like, also the compassion, like, those attributes, too, of just what we say is, like, that makes a good person, of, like, you care about others to a certain extent. Right. Some people think you should just be a martyr for everyone. It's like, no. Please don't.
Yeah, it somehow ends up, like,
we'll lose so many allies that way.
Yeah.
On all fronts.
Right.
Because, I think everyone has their... everyone has their strengths and flaws, and being able to recognize that in other people, like recognizing the compassion, recognizing your hard work, but also your tendency to overwork. So being able to, like, know both of those parts of you, though, is like, I can trust you to do something, but at the same time, I can also trust to go, this might be too much, and I should hold back a little, because that could be good for you. Let me see if I can, like, find a new direction now. Which is always the challenge too, is that balance. Everything's a balance. Nothing is black and white.
It's funny, I remember back in the day, in my 20s, I had an interview with someone, and somebody I was like, oh, this person's pretty cool. Like, I was like, I can learn a lot from this person and so forth. And I asked them, I was like, well, yeah, like, how do you balance everything? And they, like, laughed in my face, and they were like, balance? Like, there's no such thing. And I just remember sitting there and, being 24, and being like, what? That's not possible? And I'm like, no, like, I believe that 24-year-old and being like, yeah, you will have that. Like, why not? Why? Because this person isn't able to do it? Like, no, like, and that's my whole thing is, like, I want some inner peace. I just, like, I'm going to believe in that balance because, like you just said, it does exist. It takes work. It takes discipline, right? But it's possible. I do think it's possible. What do you think? You think it's possible?
Yeah. It takes active, conscious work for it to become an unconscious habit. Mm-hmm. and it could take a long time, and there will be dips and flows, and like I go through that week by week. Like some days I'm like up here, other weeks it's like I'm gonna take it easy this week because I need to recover from a hard work, like all that stuff too.
But wouldn't you say then that don't you think though that every year you've gotten a little better? Like you can be like
every year, because I've started now, which is my important thing, is that because of how much work I've already put into this, like I'm able to start this now and also help my friends along the way and be like, hey, this is how I stopped myself from overworking.
Yes.
Or here's how I can focus also on certain tasks that I really don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's also part of it.
Yes.
Is managing that work-life balance is
and that's great.
Fundamental.
And that's awesome that you're like looking out for folks and you're like being like, hey, this is what I learned, you know? Yeah. And whether they choose to take it or not, that's on them. That's on them. But at least you're sharing the wisdom, and that's what matters. You asked me this question about how do you know someone's a good person. May I throw that back at you?
Yeah.
It's
a difficult question for sure, because I wouldn't, because they get philosophical. It's just good and bad people just don't really exist. It's really that intention and how you put it into the world, because ultimately we do all have to look out for ourselves, but it's how we do that with each other that we can cohabitate and stuff. And when someone's willing to put down like whatever their differences are to at least come to like everyone has what they need in order to thrive, and you can keep your side over there with your politics and whatever you want, your thoughts, your behind the bedroom stuff that you get into, and we'll be over here with ours, and we can intermingle and talk and come to similar understandings, even when things get heated, kind of thing. It's as long as they are able to be respectable to other people, even when they're upset, I think that makes a good person. If they're able to also change their mind with new information, because that can be hard. Like when you're going through something, it's really hard to take in new info and change your mind when you're like, I'm already dealing with so much. Like, don't throw something new at me. But people who are able to work through that too, people who are emotionally intelligent, I think.
Let's stop right there, because some people don't know what that is. Can you explain what that is, emotionally intelligent people?
Yes.
What's that? What's emotional intelligence?
The way I can describe it is to not only be able to know how you're feeling and respond to that, but the other side of that can be how other people are feeling and how to respond to them. And doing so in a very like them-centric, like not that you think that they need something, but what they told you that they need is like that kind of like being emotionally aware of those differences too.
It's a great way. It's a great way to look at it. Yeah, that's because it could be a daunting term, and I love how you're saying that's. Wow, you're spot on. That was good. That was well done.
I try.
I like that, and that's why is it you think? Why is it hard for people to, what's it called? Participate in emotional intelligence.
It's harder to than just taking your own needs first and forego everything else that makes you feel challenged. Because some people don't want to challenge their thoughts and beliefs. They think that this has benefited me for so long. Why would I change?
I love it because it's so true.
Yeah.
You know what? I look at that and I go, wow, that sucks, because you're missing out on.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. It's like you're missing out on. You know, I don't know the best way. This is probably not a good analogy, but I'll just say it. But it's like when you think about like Anna and I, this is why Anna's so awesome. I'm like, well, we've been together for, it's gonna be 7 years. But every year I'm like, oh, like we're not gonna have our first time we did this and that, and she's like, there's plenty of time for firsts, like because, and I feel like, and the reason why I bring that up is this idea of like, if you look at life that way, where you're like you know, if you're curious, and so this idea of like this newness and discovering things and stuff like that, I feel like that is positive, for lack of another word,
A positive.
positive way of looking at life, and that's a great way to looking at things that of new information and new ideas, and instead of being like, oh, like, what does this mean for me? It's more of like, okay, like, let's learn, let's open our minds to new because it can. What if it can open new possibilities for you that you never thought possible? You know, instead of looking at it and being like,
Pluto.
Explain.
Pluto definitely comes to that where some people were very upset that Pluto is no longer a planet because it now challenged how they thought about planets. Because then we learned, actually, we could have like 12 to 14 planets out here, which then expands in this whole idea of what's a planet, what's a star, what's a moon. It's interesting.
So what is, okay, I love that example. What is it about us being so hardened of like, no, we know how it is, this is how it is, like being so stubborn about what we think we know versus what may evolve, or we may not know, and it changes the way we see things, like what you just said, that example. Like, what is it about, why are we so stubborn? Like, why are we so afraid to be challenged?
I mean, it's, there is that certain point where you start trying, you build, when you're very young, you build these, like, they call it schemas, where you have, like, these different, like, categories in your head. Like, this is a chair. A chair has a place to sit and a certain amount of legs. Your idea of a chair could change because you saw a 3-legged chair or a chair with a single bar on it. And so now you're challenging all of these things that you knew before, and you're like, hold up, wait a minute. That's not what I've known. And it's natural to challenge it. But it also comes to that question of, why are you challenging it? Is like, why, what does it mean for you? What does this change for you? Mm-hmm. Because Pluto not being a planet, that doesn't change you. So you don't need to be, it's not, but we overthink it. Because now we're thinking like, well, the people who think Pluto's not a planet, they also believe in this, this, and this. That's where we get in trouble.
That's where we get in trouble. And it's, I think about like, and I do think that this does, believe it or not, I do think this comes back to this idea of trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Because when things change and you're like, wait, I thought this, it's like, I'm going to just simplify this, but please jump in and make it like, dive deeper into this, okay? Because you're very good. You're very good. He's very good. Okay. What I'm learning, and again, these are fundamental things that I realize how fundamental they were when I was younger, but as we're talking about this, I think part of it too is, talking about how we're overthinking it. I think it's also like, we can't resist this idea that like, at the end of the day, I do believe that this life, like, and what the Pluto example and what all these examples are really supporting is this idea that like, we are humans who are going to constantly have to be learning and unlearning and growing, and like, there's no fixed point, like when it comes to, new information or seeing things differently, because we will never know everything.
Right.
We will always be learning. And I think my question to you is like, why are we so resistant to that? Like, to the idea, like, that is life. Like, life is about learning, and we have these bad experiences, good experiences, because they're all sculpting our life experience and how we affect other people and how we treat other people. It's a whole thing. So like, to me, on an objective manner, that makes sense. I'm like, okay, but I have to say, like, I never realized that until like, as I'm going through this journey, I'm like, why am I so resistant to accepting that truth?
And that's what I ask people is like, have you asked why? Because we move at such a high, fast pace, especially as of lately, that...
But not in this moment. Right here, I'm with you, Riley.
Yes.
We're just like...
Also, I noticed we both had like heart earrings on today.
Oh, it was meant to be. Can't see it, but
mine's a little black one.
Mine's, do you see that? Concha?
Concha, yeah. It's questioning, stopping and questioning that why. But being able to do so without coming to an absolute conclusion.
Can you say that one more time? That was beautiful.
Questioning why without coming to an absolute solution. Because you can accept something as truth, but it can just be the truth for now. such as like learning stuff through the news when COVID was happening. That's the truth for now. Tomorrow it could change. That's the truth tomorrow. And take it day by day sometimes, especially if you're so overwhelmed, you have no idea what's going on. Really slow down. Just slow down. And you will realize like things are moving too fast around you. And you can take the moment to ask why and where you need to be going.
And it takes that idea. Now we're going to take that idea and we're going to get really existential. Let's go really existential here, because that's so fascinating. And I think that's why people are scared of that. It's like, because life is this for now.
Yeah.
Because this is temporary for now.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's like, people are like, wait, no, because it is. It is. This is a truth for now. This is your life for now.
For now.
You know, things, you know.
Yeah.
You
haven't
temporary.
Gotten somewhere yet. There's always the for now and yet.
Yes. And that could be daunting for people, but it's like, but it's accepting that truth of life. Like, nobody can argue that. Like, everyone can agree that, like, this is what it is for now. And so that is the same when you're thinking about what's happening around you. And then this takes you to the next step, which is like, that's why people like underestimate that, like, being present, because this is the only moment we have for now. This moment with you right now, Riley, I'm looking into your eyes. This moment will never be recreated, right? Like, right. This is it.
We could sit down, have the same coffee, same everything. It will never be the same again. Yep.
But let's flip that and be like, that could also be exciting.
Very much so. There is it no longer exists now, but it was called Unis Honest. It was a YouTube sort of collaboration.
Oh.
It's a whole thing, but the whole point of the project was that for 1 year, it became a team. This team of people would make a video every single day doing whatever they wanted outside of their regular content.
Okay.
Just to, at the end of the year, delete it. Because Unis Honest in Latin means 1 year. And it was to be okay with the idea of, like, really about, like, death and the temperance and, like, accepting and loving what you have now. Because those videos no longer exist. And they're like, it's gone.
Here.
They exist right here. And that's it.
Oh,
that's all you have.
That's very beautiful. That's awesome.
It really changed how I saw my own life, was that, no, every day I have made choices. And they may not impact me now, tomorrow. They could impact me 5 years from now. But I want to make my choices consciously every single day. Just as they have made these videos consciously every single day.
Whoa.
Taking it day by day. So, figuring out what is it that I do like, which took a long time because I was like, what are my interests? Like, I have to go out and try things and experience things that I don't like. Like, I don't like going to someone's house on the first date. That's not a good idea. Especially when they're in LA County and I'm in Orange County and blah, blah, blah.
That's challenging, yeah.
Life lessons. Nothing that happened. It's just very weird, and I learned, like, I don't want to do this again.
Sure. I really admire how, and you're using the word consciously. I feel like I know that this, I don't know how you're going to react to this, but it's like, I think people fear that consciousness. Like,
yeah.
I never thought about it until now. I'm like, in my 20s, like, I mean, I'm not saying like I didn't do anything. I mean, I did stuff and whatever, but like, I feel like there was a part of me that definitely numbed, like, this, like, out of overthinking, fearing, like, being so conscious, because it's being worried and being worried about, just being worried. I don't know. Where am I going with this? It's just this, I feel like I love that, I admire how you're taking an active role. You're taking this, like, super active role in your life and in your decisions, and you really are, like, planting your plant, if you will. You really are taking care of yourself, and I think I'm really happy for you. Like, I really hope that people are, like, that are really having some clarity with Riley today, because I think you're inspiring me right now. I'm just like, because you're giving me perspective. Like, it's like, oh, like, I love it.
Yeah. One thing that keeps me doing that is, at one point, you know how they say, like, plan, like, do the 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and things like that.
Yeah.
I did that at one point, and I was like, within a year, all those plans had changed.
Out the door.
Out the door. And I was like, well, these are not going to be possible in that time frame anymore. Like, realistically, like, being real with myself.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, what's my ultimate end goal? And my ultimate end goal is to be able to look back at life as, like, an old man, however old I get, and go, I'm, like, happy that I was able to consciously, like, make my own decisions. I want to be comfortable that I've made the decisions I've made, even if they're not good. Because I forgive my younger self for those, like, mistakes, and it's like, that was me. That was the best I could do. And I'm doing better now.
Well, I'm really excited for you, because the fact that you're already, like, you're very clear about that. Like, I'm just excited for you, because you're, you're, like, setting yourself up for, like, a life that you can really be content with.
Yes.
You're grounded. The contentment. Being content. I was going to use the word happy, but I'm like, no, it's about being content. I think it's...
Yeah.
And happiness is maybe a result of that, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, it can... I mean, yeah, contentment is part of happiness. It's just a very low level.
Yeah.
Or low energy of it. Because, I'm not going to probably be happy that I'm dying, maybe. Like, it might be painful. But...
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully not. But at least being content. There you go.
Yeah,
that's the wood.
Yeah, that's the wood. There we go.
But just being content. And knowing that I've met the people I've wanted to meet and done things I want. And accepting that every day that can change what it is.
That's very brave of you, because I don't know why I keep coming back to this idea of, like, I think a lot of the self-sabotage that folks may feel is... I keep coming back to this, being stubborn. I don't know why. I'm like... And so that's why I think surrendering. How do you feel about that word, surrendering?
It's not entirely negative to me. Like surrendering to your emotions. Like when you're by yourself, like go for it. Like sometimes that's what you need. But surrendering to, like, the outside forces of, like, the influences around you, not so good. Because there is that, that is that fear of, like, rejection that we all face. Like, we want to belong as a species. And we want to find those people that get us, that understand us, that we can talk to and, like, explore these. Well, some people want to explore concepts. Some people just want to have a good time. They want to, have a good time and be on their way.
Sure.
But, and I'm more about, like, I want to find that balance between those people of, like, having a good time, I'm all about, like, let me try every experience out there.
Sure.
Because that's all I'm going to get.
That's it.
That's it.
This is it.
This is it.
This is it.
Final destination.
You've arrived at your final destination. Okay, so let's circle back to the original question: is trusting yourself. So we've talked about a lot of different things, a lot of great stuff. When can you give us an example of when you feel like it was hard to trust yourself, and now that you look back, you're like, oh, that's what it was like. So I'm going to do a little bit more of that. Like, does anything come to mind?
A lot. I mean, I practice that.
All right.
I practice that every day. There's that thing of, like, I've spent so many years with that little voice of, like, self-doubt that, like, I can't expect it just to go away at every single turn. But to keep challenging it every single day, even if I don't want to be like, trusting myself to, I mean, I was talking about this with my therapist, like setting up boundaries of, like, trusting that I know my boundary is reasonable. If, like, asking what I need from, like, somebody else. And the only reason I self-doubt that is because the other person was like challenging me.
Oh.
And
you can't control that.
And I can't control that.
You can't
and
control
I wanted
that.
to. But as much as I wanted to, and I
But
can't.
you can't, and you never will.
No. And I gotta trust.
And that's hard, but
yes.
But you can't control you.
I can control me, and that's where that trust comes from. If like, yeah, even when I'm out of control, it's like I know, like at least I'm also aware of things. Of like I can self-exit. I can trust that. I know in 20 minutes I can calm down, kind of thing.
And that takes effort. Like
effort.
I'm sure people have heard something similar to this, but we cannot stress enough how important it is to you have to be an active participant in working through that.
It can be so small. It can be as small as like when you asked me what sugar for the coffee, I was just like, I want to try the brown sugar, but I'm gonna trust that I'm more comfortable with the white sugar for now. Like, I know my comfort to trust that I can just be comfortable with like the fact that like just to do the basic option. It's okay.
Sure. Yeah, there's a time and place where you want to.
You can make yourself feel comfortable, and there's a time and place to try something new.
Yeah.
It's like
yes,
trusting that in itself too, but taking those little risks, just even with yourself, like.
Yeah.
I don't know, sometimes I get worried, like, what am I going to make for dinner? Is this going to be healthy enough? Am I eating right today? And it's like, the fact that I'm eating a dinner right now is good for me. Like, if it's mac and cheese tonight and that's all I feel like eating, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I will trust myself tomorrow to just start new and eat what I need to eat.
And how does that make you feel? Like overall, when you're like,
I feel a lot better.
Good.
It feels a lot better.
Yeah.
So, also being in tune with your body helps. Knowing what you need. I really need that mac and cheese.
How do you know you're in tune with your body, though? What does that look like?
That also. That
as I grab
meditating.
This donut. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding.
That's also part of it. Is I lose track of my body. Like, especially again, you're going. Like, I am on the go a lot. Again, slowing down, like focusing, like listening, like what am I feeling? Like, am I feeling hungry, or am I feeling like thirsty or bored? And just trying stuff out to see, like, am I right? And just trusting the process too.
You know what it sounds like?
Yeah.
It sounds like you have a really good relationship with yourself.
Yes. I've gotten to know him very well.
Yeah, because I'm like, that's what you would ask a partner, right? That's how you would take care of a child or a friend. Why is it you're a great example of what could be for you, for me, where it's like I just think it's very special, and I think any I hate to say this, but any like quick tips of like how you kind of worked your way towards that, because I think a lot of people miss that, and I'm working on it. I'm an active participant in this process because it's a process. But does anything stand out where you're like, this really helped me, like, move towards this space where you're like having this relationship with yourself?
Just taking a risk, like actively picking and choosing at least one time where you can pick an example of like, I went out of my way to say hi to a stranger and compliment them, and they responded positively. So I have a good experience with that now, and I know like I can do that. Like, trust myself in that one moment. I can trust myself again, and that's what I did. Is I was very socially anxious, so I would at Target.
Socially anxious, and you're just like.
And I'm right, yeah.
You're a gem. You're a gem, Riley.
And now I'm a little theatric, like. But I would go to, I was out at a grocery store, and I would see someone, and I'd be like, oh, I like your shoes. And it would always be like, I pick and choose that moment, and usually it's positive. So I'd never had anyone respond negatively, but some people do ignore you. And they're just like, I don't want. I'm like, that's you. I understand.
But you're being you.
Yeah.
You're being you. You're like, that's you.
And that's like, they didn't want the compliment. That's not on me.
Right.
Like, I still like their shoes.
Right.
So, and accepting that, like, that's going to happen too. Because it did hurt the first time where I was like, I felt really embarrassed, but I was like, but I'm okay.
Aww.
Because you're going to be okay.
Aww. I'm sitting here and I'm just like, wow, like, I'm really proud of you. I'm like...
It's that conscious effort, like, again and again.
Conscious effort. And there
Conscious
are benefits, like, that's...
You start small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. I personally feel very, very inspired this morning. And I feel like I'm excited. I mean, because my thing is, like, I know that you may be like, what? Like, I find it hard to like myself, which I think has very much to do with trusting myself, right?
Yeah.
But you've already shared some great tips on how I can start making a more conscious move towards, like, I want to feel like what you just said. We're like, oh, I have a special, I'm like, I want to feel that way about myself.
Yeah.
Like, that's
content with who you are.
Yeah.
And what can change and the timeline in which you can change. Because you can't force it overnight.
No.
Which is the hardest part, is making that effort every day. Or, you know what, every other day.
Sure.
If that's where you need to start.
Yeah.
The important part is to start and just keep trying. Because at the end of the day, you are a very likable person. You have a lot of good qualities.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You're saying to, like, in general, everybody.
And
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
They're always.
There always is. And there's always, like, I'll say that time and time again, but, like, if anybody is ever struggling with anything, like, there's truly, you just got to reach out. Even somebody you may not know that well, like, you never know how people are going to, like, show up for you. But you just got to be brave to just be vulnerable and all that good stuff. And yeah. Wow. I'm almost done with my donut here and you haven't even touched your Danish. Want to thank you for your time and with your wisdom and sharing your story, because I know that is, you're sharing a part of yourself here. So thank you for doing that. Like I said, I learned a lot and I can't wait to share with other people what you shared with us today. Any final thoughts, comments that you'd like to share with the masses?
You're never done learning. About yourself or the world.
Or you used to do that, remember?
Oh, yeah.
On Zoom?
Aww. Yeah.
Do you want to teach us anything?
No.
Okay.
I love you. That's about it.
Oh, this, right? Like...
Yeah, like the little like two
this?
fingers and
like
then
this?
like thumb.